When I first started real estate, I just completed my 3rd year of real estate. Yesterday marked the 3-year anniversary of my first closing. And so when I started, I kept asking people, well, what are the tricks? What are the tricks? And I have some friends that are agents, and everybody kind of came back and said, well, there really aren't any tricks. You just need to do a few things and do them really well. And I kept thinking they just weren't sharing their tricks with me. But the more I've done it, there are some real basics that I want to talk about today. So I really just feel that it's the grassroots success in real estate. It's just down to the basics of what we all really know, but just to expand on it. So first of all, I work really long hours. I have 4 teenagers. I work until the job is done. I call everybody back at that day. If someone reaches out to me, I contact them in some way, even if it's just a text to say, hey, I can't call you until tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock at night and I'm just walking in the door. But I work very consistently in that manner. I have systems set up that if I get emails, the leads are sent to my text. I can respond to them quickly. I can respond to individuals. And there are times, we're tired and we really don't want to talk, but just to reach out to that agent and say, look, I'm really tired. We need to talk in the morning. Or that other client, just to say, I'm really tired. We need to talk in the morning is fine. Or I'm in a training session, or I'm in a closing, whatever, but just to let them know. And I found that's a really big thing when I talk to clients that have maybe worked with other agents. The biggest thing that they'll say to me is, well, I talked to somebody a couple weeks ago, but I've not heard back from them. And that's easy. That's a really easy thing to do with texting and emailing and phone calling. There's just so many opportunities for that. And realizing that this is not just people out shopping for a pair of shoes. They're buying a house. It's their biggest investment they're going to make, and they need to trust you, and they need to know that they don't need to know how busy you are. They don't need to know that, oh my gosh, I've had such a busy day. They just need to know that they're important to you. And I really try not to tell my clients how busy I am or how many clients I have that I'm working with right now. They don't care about that. They want to know that they're your most important client. So I really work on that. And sometimes I'll want to say, oh gosh, I've been so busy. But I really catch myself, to not let them know, because then that means to them, hey, you may not have time for me. The other thing is I really care about my clients, and sometimes I will lose a sale over it, because if I had buyers recently that were buying a house that I just really didn't think was right for them, and I told them, I said, this house is not right for you. I know you're ready for a house, so it's got these problems, and they ended up listening to me, and they had some gut feelings that it wasn't right for them. And I can sell a bucket of water in a flood. I can talk anybody into buying a house, but that's not my main reason for being a realtor, And so putting my clients above my success or the closing, and I think it comes back to them and they realize, hey, she really is looking out for my best interest. So when you find a house that is going to be right for them or is going to be good, they trust you and what you have to say about it. I have lived in Kingwood for almost 24 years. So I have a lot, and I have raised all 4 kids here. So I have a lot of knowledge of the Kingwood area. I really share that with my clients. And I lead them, direct them to websites that might be beneficial. I direct them, schools are so important here. I direct them to the school websites. Most of the schools I know at least a staff member, if not the principal of the school. And I give them their information. And I say, look, call this person and tell them you know me, that you're working with me, and ask them anything you want. And that has really made the clients feel real comfortable when they're moving into a neighborhood and they've got kids in school and they know they have a teacher there that they have a connection with and they can talk to. I also, I pull up tax rolls a lot of times. If I have someone that's not real sure about a street, I'll pull up the tax rolls and I'll see if I know anybody on the street. And a lot of times I do. I would say at least 50% of the time I know someone who either lives on that street or near that street. And I'll call them. I'll Facebook them. I'll call them. I'll say, hey, I got a client who wants to buy this house. How's the neighborhood? Can I come introduce them to you? And I do. And I walk them over to the house and I introduce them. And that makes people feel comfortable moving into the area as well. I think that understanding what your clients want And understanding the different personalities of the different neighborhoods in Kingwood is also really important. Each neighborhood has a real different personality to it and a different feel. And I really focus on talking to the clients and saying, what exactly do you like to do? What are you looking for? What are your kids into? And especially with the high schools, there are a lot of differences between the two high schools. They're both great schools, but I have a client right now, they have a daughter that's very, very shy, and they're looking for a Bear Branch house. And their daughter's in 8th grade. And really, I think Kingwood Park is a better school for them because their daughter's so shy and quiet. She doesn't really excel in she's not an overachiever really in anything. She's not in a sport. And I think she would probably get eaten up at Kingwood High School. Now, I didn't really say it that way to that client, but say, putting the positives of Kingwood Park maybe might be a good fit for her because it's a smaller school. So those kind of things. So you're more than just selling a house. You're selling the location. And I think that the clients really come to find you as a friend and not just their agent. And they stay in touch with you because you have this deeper connection with them. I just had to stick my daughter in there. So she didn't really go on any of the pictures, but I thought that was cute coloring. But anyway, I follow up. And I know I talked about at the beginning, I'm following up like when I get a lead, but I follow up with referrals. Any referral, whether it comes to something or not, I send a handwritten note. I've started implementing sending maybe just a $5 Starbucks gift card to that referral. Hey, thanks for thinking of me. So-and-so called me and we're getting together next week. I try to be real confidential about that referral person. I don't really go into the business of what they're looking for, any of that. That's not the referral friend's business. But it is okay to say, they gave your name, it is okay to say, hey, so-and-so reached out to me. And I always say, I will take great care of them. That I put that in every letter I write, every thank you note I write. I always ask for the referral, and I always say, please send me anyone you know looking to buy or sell. I promise to take great care of them. That's absolutely what I do. So I think that's really important. And then I follow up after the sale, not just, a lot of times it comes to closing. I kind of go through this whole withdrawal where I become really close. Now, some clients I think, oh, thank God, I don't ever want to see you again. But most of them, we get to closing, and it's really, you shared something really intimate with them, and you know a lot about them, and they've cried on your shoulder, and and then you close and you think, well, gosh, I'm never going to see them again, but you need to follow up. You need to check in. Sometimes I'm a little scared to call them, especially I've got one doing a big remodel right now, and I get a little nervous to call her, how's it going, because there's always those surprises, but it's important to follow up and make sure they're doing okay. It goes back to the community. If I follow up and I've had clients that are feeling a little lonely that have moved to the neighborhood and maybe from out of state and they don't know anyone. I invited one to an Astros game last week. We had an extra ticket. Greg had an extra ticket, and I reached out to a client from Chicago and said, hey, why don't you come to the Astros game with Greg? I've invited clients to girls' night out. I've got a great group of girlfriends, and I've invited them to dinner with us. And sometimes they click, sometimes they don't, but at least they feel like they're involved and that you are really caring again about them, not just the fact that they bought a house and you got your paycheck. I use social media a lot. It is pivotal. And I think the biggest thing with social media, I know anybody on Facebook, and I don't really use LinkedIn very much, but I use Facebook a lot. And I need to start using Twitter, but I find the kids use Twitter more than the adults, so Facebook really is a good tool for the adults, but really, really important, don't brag on Facebook. It just turns everybody off. Nobody cares you had a bunch of closings. Nobody cares, and you've got it, and you have to put a certain amount of business in there. You need to throw it in maybe once a week. Throw something in, I was out on a farm and ranch on Monday driving around in an ATV. I don't know if my Facebook friends saw my pictures. Yeah, it was a blast. But my point was, hey, if anybody's looking for farm and ranch, and I now have a new lead from someone up in Bryan College Station that wants a farm and ranch. And guys, farm and ranches are usually about $1 million and up. And so, but my whole point on putting that, pictures of the cows and the ATV I'm driving in the rain, and it was a blast, and we went through mud puddles and the, bushes and stuff, And so I wanted to share kind of the funness of, I love going through the farm and ranch stuff. This is fun. Look at this cute longhorn. But really my intent, my underlying intent was, hey, I sell farm and ranch. So if you are interested in that, give me a call. And it happened. My third comment on that was from a past client who said, hey, can you help me find some land? And now I'm emailing with her, and they're looking for 100 acres. And probably going to spend about $1 million. So whether it works out or not, but you have to be really creative. So I sit there for a long time thinking, what creative way can I kind of passively market my business on Facebook? And then sometimes it's just a matter of keeping up with people, you know, and commenting. So I start my day every morning on Facebook. I go to bed every night on Facebook. I touch it at least twice a day. It takes me 5 minutes. Sometimes I get distracted, but really, you know, 5 minutes of looking, hey, what's everybody got going on in their life? I have probably gotten about 10 deals from Facebook, just that I can think of quickly and easily. I had a client yesterday who is trying to get on the Rachel Ray show, and I commented on it and I shared her post, and then she commented back, hey, I give your name to anybody who's looking for an agent. And I was able to say, that's great, Remax is great. So now anybody reading her post has me down there with her giving me a plug. So things like that. But a lot of these are things we know, that I really, again, I think, don't just get on there and every post you have is how great am I and look at this closing that I sold. You've got to mix it up. It's okay to throw those in now and then. A lot of times I'll put on there a need and I'll say, hey, I have some, especially the way the market's been, I've got 5 cash buyers right now, can't find a house. Anybody know anybody wanting to sell? I don't say what neighborhood. It might just be Bear Branch they're looking for. I don't put it. I just say, hey, what neighborhood? Anytime I do that, I get on average 2 listings. So, and then also, you know, possibly more business. But, so it's just being smart on social media and not turning people off with how great you are. I do have a business page, and I've started doing business ads. You can do a business ad for $20. It can reach, you can target how much you want to reach with it. I encourage you to do that. It's a great tool. But I have more followers on my personal page, so I tend to do most of my kind of, hey, I'm at Farm and Ranch kind of stuff on my personal page. But I like to put my listings and things on my business page and try to keep my business page a little more business minded than, hey, look at my kids at homecoming. You know, I don't put that on the business page. I am not afraid to ask for business, and we are here to provide a service. So I don't look at it like, hey, will you buy this from me? I look at it like, hey, do you have anybody I can help? Do you have someone that you know that wants to buy or sell real estate that I can help and provide a service to, that I'll do a good job for? Some of the funny ways when I first started, I thought I would sit around and go and try to brainstorm, like, okay, what can I do to get business? So I would put my name tag on. I wear my name tag a lot. I always wear it to closings. I don't wear it around the office as much as I used to, because sometimes I feel like I have too much jewelry on and it's one too many accessories, but I always wear it to the grocery store. And when I first started selling, I would go to H-E-B. I would maybe just need milk, and I would stay in H-E-B for 2 hours, and I would have 10 business cards in my pocket and my name tag on. And I would wander around H-E-B seeing everybody I knew and chit-chatting, and then they would say, oh, are you selling real estate? I go, oh my gosh, I forgot to take that off. How embarrassing. Yeah, here's my business card. If you know anybody wanting to buy or sell real estate, give them my card. Shameless. You do any of it. But I would, and every time I go, oh my gosh, I forgot to take that off. You know, how embarrassing. I would say it every time. And then I go to the next aisle. You'd hear me say the same thing. I wouldn't take it off, put it in my purse. So I can't tell you how much business I got from H-E-B. I mean, it was crazy. Even at the, even at checking out, I had one client who was a checker. Gosh, I've really been looking for a house, and I just don't know who to call. And I'm like, well, why don't you call me? I'll really take good care of you. And she called me, and we bought her a starter home. You know, so I think that's really important to let people know. People want to work with someone they can trust. And if you have a friendly attitude and you reassure them, I will take good care of you. I say it all the time. It's just what I say. I call and ask for referrals, but in a very, not a pushy manner. I call and check on people. and past clients, and instead of saying, do you know anybody, I'll say, hey, I've got some buyers. Of course I don't, but I'll say, I've got some buyers that are looking in your area. Do you know anybody who's thinking about selling their house? And yeah, you know what, the man down the street said he might, do it. And then don't be afraid to go knock on that door. Stand back a little bit, knock on the door, stand back. I don't really like door knocking, but I've done it when I've had a specific person, and I'll say, hey, your neighbor down the way is my client, and they said you're thinking about selling your house. I've done it a couple times, but but that's it. People don't want you to call them on the spot. I know some agents will do that. Hey, do you know anybody? I'm trying to drum up business. You got to be creative. You got to be smooth with it, and just say, you always got a buyer, and you really do. You could find a buyer. If you had the house, then you would find the buyer. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? But if you can stretch it a little bit and say, hey, I've got a buyer, would love your street, would love your neighborhood. Do you know anybody? And I ask business referrals too. I have lenders. I have title companies. We come into contact with home warranty companies that we refer. We give a lot of business to. It is okay to call them and say, you know what? And I jokingly say, hey, this is a two-way street. I've given you 10 people. Who you got for me? And I kind of joke about it. But I've gotten a lot of clients that way. And the best way to get them is from your lender, because they're not going to send you people that aren't qualified. So if you call your lenders that you work with and just right out front say, hey, who do you know that I can help? And I hope I would really do a good job for them. And that's, to me, that's a really important thing. And it's funny, when I call my business people and ask for business in that way, 9 times out of 10 they go, Kim, you're the only one that ever asked for business. And I think that's funny, because they're in our industry. They've got the business, so call them up. My biggest thing is to be nice to everybody. And you owe it to your clients. You owe it to your future clients. And we've all been, especially in this business, we've all been in multiple bids, and we've all looked at those agents on those offers that are all pretty much the same. You have 3 offers that are pretty equal. There are certain agents in this industry I hope I never see, let alone have to work with again, right? I love working with Lanny. That's the thing. It's like we know. No, but yeah, exactly. So the agents that are that have their act together, and so this being nice isn't just being nice to your clients. Bye, Mom. It's my mom. Anyway, it's not just being nice to your clients, but it's about being nice to your other agents and everyone in that transaction. I start off my deals, if I don't know the other agent, I started off saying, look, I am looking forward to a really smooth transaction. We are working for the same end goal, and I really am excited about us working together to get this deal closed. And I make it right up front. We are not working against each other. And I always say, don't mistake my niceness for weakness, because I'm very strong at negotiating, and I'm a strong agent, and I represent my clients well. But you do not have to be a pit bull to be that way. You just don't. And the agents that, and it can even come down to even negotiating repairs, we all know there are agents that are just awful, and I think, can you get out of the way and just let me talk to your client so we can get this worked out? Because you've just lost the deal because you're so snotty, and so exactly. And and I also say, when it comes to multiple bids, I make sure I make it real clear to that other agent, hey, I'm a good agent. I'm easy to work with. If this will be a very smooth transaction. Let's make this work. Let's hold it together. And I can't tell you how many agents have come back to me and say, hey, either I've worked with you before and I know you're good, or I've heard about you, because we all talk. I've heard you're a really great agent and easy to work with. And that's the biggest compliment I can get. And honestly, to me, that's the key. A couple things I didn't say, and they kind of just fit in, but organization is really, really important. Rhonda, yes. Rhonda, knowing when you're at the point of saying, I need help. So I started this, I got into the business right at the prime time. I mean, I just did. The market was crazy, and I stepped into it, and I didn't realize, and all the experienced agents would say, Kim, this is not normal. Don't get excited. This is not reality. This market is a crazy, fast-paced seller's market. And so it took me, Rhonda hasn't even been with me a year, but it took me a lot of hours of going to bed in tears at midnight, knowing I set my alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning to get up and start working again. Because and my husband traveled, so I was like a single mom with 4 teenagers, working sometimes 18 hours a day without eating. Just working as hard as I could. And I remember, I think Frank was the one that when I first came here said, you need to hire help. And I remember saying, well, what would they do? Because what would they do? Well, I laugh now because I think, oh my gosh, how did I do it? How did I do it all? It was crazy. And and I think a balance is so important, and I'm trying to reach that balance. And I'm in control. I'm a huge control freak. And finding someone who you can trust in and count on, and know that they understand, they have your same level of expectancy in business. They know that what you put out is going to look good. It's not going to be typos, and it's going to be professional, and you're going to communicate with your clients in a manner that you would. Then you start to release that control. And that has been an ongoing process, and Rhonda has truly blessed my business. So I can't encourage you enough. If you're running around like crazy, get some help. The other thing is organization. So I'm always, I don't know if y'all see me, I'm running in, I'm throwing stuff, and I'm running out. And I seem really unorganized. And it's kind of just the way I roll. I'm just always kind of crazy. But actually I am very organized, and I'm paperless. And Rhonda has helped me I used to be paperless and paper, and I used to carry around this huge filing cabinet. It was a Rubbermaid. It was so awful looking. It was a Rubbermaid, and I had all my clients color-coded with their own folder, and I had everything in Dropbox, but not really in an organized manner, and I would go carry this Rubbermaid around in the back of my car, literally everywhere I went. And the other day, I have a horse, and I try to sneak away and ride at least once a week, or I have to go early in the morning to get the time in because I ride for a couple hours. And my girlfriend that I ride with was laughing. She said, do you remember those files you used to make me bring in the truck every time we go out and ride? She goes, you never touched them. You never got in them, but you had to have them. And I laughed, and I thought, yeah, I did. I would go out to ride my horse with 20 files and a Rubbermaid just in case someone called and needed an answer. So it's really, now that I'm paperless, and I have everything in Dropbox. Back Agent's great, but I use Dropbox, and it's very organized. And the key to even see me even more organized than you are is when someone calls me, within 5 minutes I've emailed them whatever they want. Whatever they need. Within 5 minutes, I'll send them a Dropbox link to that document. And that is really important. I've had people respond to that many times and say, thank you so much for getting that over so quickly. You bet, no problem. Well, I might be out on my horse sending it on my phone via Dropbox, but they think I'm sitting in the office working, having it, scanning it in and sending it over to them. So that has really taken a lot of my time away from busyness, is that being organized, but also it gives you that impression to everybody else that you're just always working because you've always got it there. And I don't have my Rubbermaid of files in the back of my car when I'm away. So anyways, anybody have any questions? That's really all I have. No big super surprises, but
You use HAR.
oh, I use HAR. I use all that HAR has. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about my listing presentations. So here's another thing. Knock on wood, I've never gone to a listing presentation and not gotten a listing. I went to one last night. They'd interviewed several agents, and it was kind of a funny thing. It was one of my past clients who I just sold a lot for. And when I sold it a year and a half ago, they mentioned that they may want to be moving in the future. And I just happened to reach out to her. Hey, what's going on? I know you guys. She goes, oh my gosh, we just bought a new home. Ugh, I love new construction, but she didn't know to call me. But that's okay. But she said, but we're thinking about selling our house, but we've already met with a couple people. I said, well, great. When can I come meet with you? So she says, well, I guess Tuesday night. I said, okay, great, I'll be there Tuesday. My other thing on listings, the first available they have, you want to win them over. So the second they call you for a listing, or you find out they're open for a listing presentation, I'll move other things around to be the first one in the door, because chances are once you come in, they're going to sign it right there and they're not going to even look at anybody else. So you want that very first touch with those people. You don't want to have to overcome some kind of relationship they've already built, unless the other agent's really bad, which is what happened last night. I can tell you this. So I show up. I use HAR. I love HAR. I think their listing, I think their CMA report is beautiful. I print it out and I email it. But I like to print it because people, I call it the nosy neighbor report, and I leave it with them. And they like to look it over and play with it, and then they might call me later and have questions. But especially the older people, they want to have something in hand. They want you to leave them something. So I print out the big, long CMA. It's worth the color printer cartridges. It's fine. I print out the big, long CMA. They don't know it's just a couple buttons, and I print it. They think you've done all this research. I leave it with them. I jokingly say, here's your nosy neighbor report. You get to see what everybody sold their house for. Look it over whenever you want. You know, and they have something tangible. I showed up last night to this past client, and she had met with 2 other agents. One left her nothing. The other agent left a flyer from a house that he sold down the street, and he scribbled all over it and wrote down like what her comps would be compared to that house, and wrote a price and circled it. And I said, did you write all this? She goes, no, he wrote it when he was here talking to us. I said, well, did he leave you anything else? She goes like, no, that was it. And here I had an entire folder with my brochure, with my nosy neighbor report, and I had all my listing documents printed, highlighted, and ready to sign. And I said, all right, well, let's go over these documents. And I said, all right, you want to just sign it now? We'll just go over it now and sign it. And she was like, well, sure, why not? I said, all right, here we go, let's sign it. So we signed it there, and I left, and I had the listing. But the important thing, and again, is to look like you got your act together. You know, HAR, it's so, our MLS is so good. I've looked at other CMA programs, and I just see no reason to not use HAR. I can't find any reason to not use it. I think it's fabulous. And you know, it's all inclusive, where if I use another third-party CMA, I worry that maybe they didn't get all the data from HAR or whatever. So I don't think there's any reason not to use HAR. I didn't know this until last year, but our MLS is actually a prototype for the nation. A lot of big cities are using HAR as their prototype, what they want to be. So we really have some great tools. One thing I'll tell you, this is kind of a little, everybody's like, tell your secrets. This is a little thing I did when I first started, and I probably will do it again. It's the timing thing. I used to make I do deliver a pre-listing packet. These last couple of months, because I've been so busy, I have slacked off a little bit, but I'm picking it back up. Before and I do it definitely do it for my high-end listings. If I'm going in for a listing, I have a brochure, and in the brochure I have a little information, menu of services, my bio, I have some information about myself. It's really nice. It's printed, professionally printed, and I deliver it prior to my appointment. So I put it in their mailbox, or I put it at their front door, and I send them a note, and I say, hey, I left a little package for you to look over before we get together tonight. Why don't you look it over, and if you have any questions, we can talk about it this evening. And that gives them a chance to kind of look you over and see everything, because when you're sitting with them, there's so much. You're going over the legal stuff of the listing presentation. They're not hearing everything. And that gives them a chance to look over some things. If I have a CMA printed in advance, I'll include that. I try to do that, but at the very least, I have pre-printed brochures, and I leave them there prior to our meeting. One thing
Brochures of the property?
Brochures, my brochure.
Okay.
My personal real estate brochure. Before I really got busy, one thing I did, and it was really cute, but it takes a lot of work to get it together, but and I've always done the pre-listing packet, but I went to the dollar store. I tried to stay under $10, and I felt like that was a good investment. I would go to the dollar store, and I bought these Rubbermaids, like the size of a shoebox.
Like Rubbermaids.
Yeah. And I would put in there, I had a coloring book, pack of crayons, one of those little single serving things of aspirin, a $5 Starbucks card, a Mr. Clean dry eraser, those Mr. Clean erasers, magic eraser, and I had a light bulb, and sometimes a candle or something smelly. And then I had a letter pre-printed, and my letter said, "Dear homeowner, I'm so excited to meet with you. I'm so looking forward to our visit. I hope you choose me to list your house. But I'd like to give you this emergency house selling kit for your, for selling your house." And then I had a list of everything's for. I said, there will be times when you'll have to leave your house to show. So here's a Starbucks card to get a cup of coffee on me. Here's a coloring book and some crayons for the kids to keep them busy while you're driving around the neighborhood waiting for that buyer to leave. Here's a light bulb. Make sure all your light bulbs are working before you list your house. Here's a magic eraser. These are to get all the smudges off your door frames. Be sure to go through it. And the aspirin. Here's some aspirin. And then I put self-explanatory. and then I said, I really look forward to working with you. And I would do it the day of or the day before. And I would leave it with my brochure. And I'd leave it on their front porch with a big bow tied around it. And then I'd call and say, hey, I left you a package at your front door. And seriously, never ever have I gone to a listing and not gotten it. And I think that's a great idea to do. Is I would like to make some more and package them. I don't know if they really kind of fit that high-end luxury home. It might be a little cheesy, but like for my young people, I think that they have little kids, and it's just it's a good little, hey, I'm a with it agent. I'm with it enough that I'm gonna put this together, and I care enough about being your agent that I'm gonna give you this. And again, $10 or under. So, any questions? Did I leave anything out?
If it's a new LED bulb, plus the budget.
I know. I might start leaving the light bulbs out.
Maybe a flashlight.
Yeah.
You said you did responses when you have the automatic email go out from her. People think that you personally sat down and...
Yeah, I always put my contacts into HAR, my buyers. And they have that where you add contact and then you can save a search, and it gives them their own website. And I make a huge deal about that.
You'll email them new listings
Yeah.
too, and they think that you did it.
Yeah, and I make a big deal about all of it. I put in their search criteria, I save it. When I'm meeting them, I say, oh man, I'm going to set you up your own website. So you can get in, you can make notes. One of you's at work, the other's at home. You can write notes, and you can share it with each other. And you don't have all these sticky notes all over, and you don't have to be obsessed with HAR. And then, you put the criteria in there, and then it automatically sends it to them. Hey, there's a new listing. They call me, thank you so much for sending me that house. That's great. Well, again, that's automated. I didn't do it. I just took 5 minutes to set them up. And then for 180 days until they buy a house, it's sending them houses as they hit. And I tell them, before I do it, I say, you know what? I'm going to be sure. I'm going to set myself up with you that the second a new house hits the market, I'm going to send it to you. And they're, oh man, that's great. I mean, sometimes it's 2 in the morning. We get these active, and that I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that.
So Kim, do you prefer to use that dashboard as opposed to just sending them a link to the new listings?
Well, it sends them a link too.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying that you set them up on the dashboard so they can
Yes.
go in and make comments, select favorites.
I do.
Do you find that to be more effective than just sending them the link, which can be set up automatically as well?
Well, I set them up with the dashboard first, so they have all of them.
Okay.
And then they'll go through and they'll go through and take some off, like some, and then as new ones come in, they'll just add back onto that dashboard, and they'll send them an individual link. It's not a
Okay.
personal note from me; it's coming from EJR automatically, so I don't have to stay on top of it.
Do you do it through Fusion or through Tempo? Because each one has a different look.
I use Fusion.
Fusion, okay.
Yeah, but I have a Mac, and when I first started, Tempo was not compatible with Mac, so I actually don't even really know how to use Tempo. I use it for edit, listings, but it takes me forever. I can do Fusion just really fast, so yeah, I don't even know how to do it in Tempo. So I use Fusion for sure. So, any other questions?
All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.